Forget what you think you know. We're not just talking about walls and samurais. Ancient Asia was a melting pot of innovations, empires, and mysteries that shaped the world in ways you can't even imagine. China, cradle of innovations and empires. When we think of ancient China, the Great Wall is the first image that comes to mind. But it's just the tip of the iceberg of a civilization that was ahead of its time. While Europe was struggling in many aspects, China had already mastered bronze metallurgy with unparalleled skill. They created weapons, tools, and works of art with a precision that still impresses archaeologists today. But it doesn't stop there. The Chinese invented paper in the 2nd century BC, a silent revolution that changed how knowledge was recorded and disseminated. Think about the impact of that. Before, writing was done on bamboo, silk, or turtle shells. Paper made the process cheaper, lighter, and more accessible, paving the way for an explosion of historical, philosophical, and literary records. The movable type printing press, although perfected in Europe centuries later, had its beginnings in China, with woodblock printing. Silk, more than a luxurious fabric, was an economic and diplomatic force. The Silk Road, an intricate network of trade routes, carried not only silk to the west, but also spices, porcelain, paper, and crucially, ideas. This cultural exchange was a driving force for the development of various civilizations. And the empires? Dynasties like Qin and Han built a centralized and efficient state with complex bureaucracies, legal systems, and impressive infrastructure. The first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, unified China and standardized weights, measures, and even writing, laying the foundations for a lasting nation. His mausoleum with the terracotta army is a testament to the grandeur and power of that period. India, knowledge, spirituality, and global trade. Ancient India was not a unified empire like China, but a patchwork of kingdoms and city-states, each contributing to a vibrant cultural and intellectual mosaic. In the Indus Valley, cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, around 2500 BC, reveal impressive urban planning, laid-out streets, advanced sanitation systems, and standardized brick houses. This demonstrates a level of organization and engineering far ahead of its time. Indian mathematics is one of the jewels of the ancient world. It was the Indians who developed the concept of zero as a number, and the positional decimal system, which revolutionized arithmetic and paved the way for the development of algebra and calculus. Without zero, much of modern mathematics would be unthinkable. Ayurvedic medicine, with its roots in ancient texts like the Vedas, developed a holistic healing system that influenced medical practices worldwide. Complex surgeries, knowledge of anatomy, and the use of medicinal herbs were common in ancient India. In the field of spirituality, India is the birthplace of Hinduism and Buddhism. Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, in the 6th century BC, spread throughout Asia, transforming cultures and philosophies in distant realms, such as Tibet, China, Japan, and Southeast Asia. India was a center of pilgrimage and a magnet for thinkers and scholars. Indian maritime trade, across the Indian Ocean, connected the subcontinent with Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and even the Roman Empire. Spices, precious stones, cotton, and Indian textiles were highly coveted products, making India a vital center of the ancient global economy. Japan. The rise of a unique culture. While China and India flourished with gigantic empires, ancient Japan, though geographically isolated, developed a unique culture. The Jomon period, dating back to 10,000 BC, shows us a hunter-gatherer society that produced elaborate pottery, some of the oldest in the world. In the Yayoi period, 300 BC, 300 AD, the introduction of wet rice cultivation and metallurgy from Korea and China transformed Japanese society. Villages grew, and rice became the basis of the economy and culture. Pottery was now more utilitarian, and the first complex social structures began to emerge. The Kofun period, 300-538 AD, is marked by the construction of enormous tombs, the kofun, shaped like keyholes. These tombs house tribal chiefs and their belongings, revealing the formation of an elite and the rise of powerful clans, which would eventually lead to the unification of Japan. The legend of Empress Himiko, a shaman queen who ruled one of the Yamatai kingdoms and maintained diplomatic relations with China, is a fascinating glimpse into the politics and religion of the time. Korea, the cultural bridge and the forge of kingdoms. Ancient Korea frequently served as a cultural bridge between China and Japan, absorbing and adapting influences, but also developing its own identities. Early Korean kingdoms, such as Gojoseon, already maintained commercial and cultural relations with China. The Three Kingdoms period, 57 BC, 668 AD, comprising Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla, was a time of intense competition and innovation. Goguryeo was a warrior kingdom, famous for its fortresses and battles against China. Baekje, in turn, was a cultural and maritime center, maintaining strong ties with Japan and exporting not only goods, but also knowledge of Buddhism and writing. Silla would eventually unify the peninsula, but not without first fighting epic wars and developing its own art and culture. Korean metallurgy, especially in the manufacture of armor and weapons, was of high quality. They also played a crucial role in transmitting Buddhism and Chinese writing to Japan. Southeast Asia, maritime kingdoms, and the spice route. Ancient Southeast Asia was a crossroads of trade routes, not just silk, but spices. Kingdoms like Funan, in modern-day Cambodia and Vietnam, and Srivijaya, in Sumatra, Indonesia, were maritime powers, controlling crucial routes between India and China. These kingdoms absorbed Indian influences such as Hinduism and Buddhism, which manifested in grand architectures like the temples of Angkor Wat, built much later than the ancient period, but with deep cultural roots in the region, and the temples of Borobudur. Knowledge of navigation, the organization of large fleets, and the mastery of trade transformed the region into a center of wealth and power. So, what were Asians doing in the ancient world? They were building empires, inventing world-changing technologies, developing complex systems of thought and spirituality, and creating global trade networks. They were not just protagonists, but architects of the world as we know it. Ancient Asia is proof that history is much richer and more interconnected than conventional textbooks often show us. Which of these achievements surprised you the most? Leave your comment.